Good morning, good day, good evening, good night, whatever it is for you. Welcome to the show. We are here today with Andrew from Goldsky. He will get a chance to introduce himself soon. As you know, we love to have like all kinds of protocols and supporting applications on this show, so that everybody in the audience can know what's out there and what you could possibly use to build your own ideas on the Flare network. So, Andrew, welcome.
Thank you, thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's very exciting always to see all these new ecosystems that are coming out, and there's so many different chains, and all these L1s, L2s. There's a lot of ecosystems, so it's always interesting to observe how everybody goes about launching their ecosystem and how they go about getting new developers and builders and projects. And it's been very cool to see the Flare ecosystem kick things off and really build this community, because not every single chain that we see launch does have this kind of excitement and passion. And so Flare seems to be really doing a good job at getting people excited. So yeah, I'm just happy to be here and excited to be on this show. Really cool intro, by the way. I like the little jingle we got going.
Thank you. I think it's good that you've noticed the community. I think it's a very active community. We have various shows that have kicked off especially over the last year. So I'm also always happy to join in on other shows if that is something that is wanted. But it's great that you've noticed that already in a short time that you've been with Flare. When did you guys start to work with Flare?
Oh, this was recent. I think this was in the last couple months. Like very recently, they started working with us, and yeah, it's been cool so far. I mean, meeting the team is awesome, and it's just been smooth so far.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about Goldsky, because I think people want to know what we are talking about before we get all excited.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think to really understand what Goldsky is, it helps to understand, taking a step back and figuring out what exactly is the purpose of indexing. Because at the end of the day, what Goldsky does, we're a platform that allows developers to index on-chain data. And what indexing does is essentially, it's a really efficient way to, take a look at what's happening on chain, whether it's specific asset movement, transactions, on-chain events, any kind of thing that's happening on a network. It really is a lot easier to query it by using what's called either a subgraph or what's called the mirror pipeline. So basically, these are the two products that Goldsky has. We've got subgraphs and mirror, and there are multiple ways for you to look on chain. So indexing basically solves this problem of when you want to understand on-chain data, if you look at directly at a chain, it's very slow. It's very hard to understand what's happening on the chain. There's like raw logs, no decoding. RPC calls can be rate limited, and they're not really designed for complex queries. So if you have a really specific use case that you have, if you're reading directly on chain, it's a lot more difficult to get that information, at least quickly and in a clean way. So you'll usually have to build your own ETL or write some kind of custom indexer, right? So basically, without having to design your own solution from scratch, you can use a platform like Goldsky, which is indexing. And that essentially turns this, messy blockchain data into a very structured, queryable, fast API where you can get decoded events, organized entities, instant access to the data that you need. So in a really simple term, what you can think of a subgraph is essentially you're looking at on-chain data and you're just pulling that, and it's just in a much more easily digestible format, so that, instead of just looking right on chain and trying to figure out what it is that's happening, you can be specific about what it is you're looking for. So let's say it's a specific contract or specific dApp or an asset. So subgraphs let you pull that data. And we can also dive into mirror in a bit, but essentially with indexing, subgraphs is like, that's the core fundamental principle to understand. It's just making it more efficient to read this on-chain data.
Yeah, because you kind of like decide beforehand what you want to read, right? Instead of just gather everything and then figure it out as we go.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's just faster too if you kind of come in knowing what you're looking at. It's almost like, if you got a bow and arrow, you want to aim for a target and then shoot, right? You don't just shoot and then look for a target after. You want to come in kind of understanding what you're looking for, at least if you're looking for optimization and speed.
Yeah. Shooting first and looking for a target later does sound a bit degen. So I think that there might be a large crew out here who is happy to do that.
That's just how they go about it.
All right. So so you said basically you have two products. Can you explain the difference for people?
Yeah. So to break it down, so between subgraphs and mirror, so at a very high level, essentially subgraphs, that's like pulling the data where you get this GraphQL API of your contracts, right? Which is great for like front ends or explorers or dashboards. If you just kind of want to have this structured data for, really fast way for pulling that information, then that's what a subgraph would be used for, where it's essentially, pick the contract, pick what you want to understand, and you pull that. Now, mirror is a similar kind of, way where you're looking on chain and it's more structured and you index it. But what's very cool about that is there are these data streams where essentially you're not just pulling the data, but you're actually putting it into a database. So whether that's Postgres, AWS, ClickHouse, any kind of database that we support, essentially you're taking that on-chain data and you're streaming it, whether it's decoded logs or state differences or any kind of transaction information. It's real-time data that's being just put into your database. When this is really ideal for, if you want to have analytics where real-time data is really important, maybe there's like a leaderboard or you're just trying to track on-chain activity. Or another use case is, let's say you're building a dApp and your front end or even the back end requires real-time ingestion of data. So, you want it to be accurate, you want it to be fast. So this way you can have that real-time data streaming, whatever network you choose, whatever, type of contract you want to look at. So really the biggest difference between subgraphs and mirror is subgraphs, you're essentially pulling that data and querying. And then with mirror, you're similarly doing that, but you're putting it into a database so that it can be stored there. And there's multiple use cases that, benefit from both of them.
Yeah, I guess you could probably do more analysis on the data in the database and like, some kind of like post-processing. Whereas that would be more difficult because not with having that database, you basically have something solid, some state that you can use.
Yeah. Exactly. And also a really cool way of looking at it too is, once this on-chain data is in your database, you're pretty much available. It's like unlocks you to do whatever you want with that data, right? So you can compare it to another chain's data. So maybe you're a multi-chain dApp where you're not just, pulling information from one subgraph for one chain. You've got your database where you have multiple streams all plugged into your database. So you have this flow of data from any chain that you want. So you can compare and query multiple chains. So for any kind of cross-chain app where, that is an important factor, whether it's bridging or swapping, whatever is the use case, having this centralized database with that information is really useful. And you can even go a step further too, not even just comparing multiple different chains, but you might have a source with off-chain data. Like let's say you're using some Oracle, or you're putting your own data from some other database into this, database where the on-chain data is going. So you can compare on-chain and off-chain. So when it's, not just querying a subgraph, but it's actually hosted in a database, I mean, the possibilities are endless of the kind of data you can query because, you can combine different types of data, which is what's super cool.
Yeah, I guess you just have to come up with the use cases and and then figure it out from there. Yeah. All right. Who is what can you say which protocols are currently using one of the products or both?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton. So a lot of big chains, like a lot of familiar chains you've probably heard of. The Optimism super chain ecosystem, we work a lot with them. They're just doing a lot of really cool stuff in interoperability. There's Barrett Chain. A really popular name you've probably heard is Polymarket. So, we power their data. So a lot of big protocols and many chains, they all require indexing just so that they can have, that real-time analytics of what's happening with their users. So most apps can benefit, right? Whether you're a lending protocol, whether you're, a swapping protocol, or if you're doing anything with what's it called, like collateral or lending. Like for example, Superform, they're a really cool product and they're doing some cross-chain stuff. And we power a lot of what they're building out. So yeah, we've seen a lot of very cool use cases. It's always interesting because, sometimes it's a dApp, sometimes it's a chain, sometimes it's both. So it just really depends.
Yeah. I think we've also started exploring the possibilities of Goldsky, and we've already at least noticed that it is way faster with the indexing than our own subgraph. And to give you some idea, like if our subgraph for some reason doesn't work anymore, it breaks down and we have to start again, it can take like up to 2 weeks to index everything that it's been indexing. And the problem is that everything in our app basically requires a subgraph information. Like the only thing that doesn't need it is the smart contract. So if you want to know what the APY is, you need the subgraph. If you want to know what the exchange rate currently is, you don't need it. But if you want to know what it was yesterday, you need the subgraph. And so if you want to know what rewards came in 2 weeks ago, you need the subgraph. So a lot of this data that is very important to our users, and of course it's extremely important for building trust as well. People want to see that, hey, you've been around for a while. I can see your sort of like data. It's like your CV basically online as a protocol, and it all looks good. But when it breaks down, you're like, it's going to take a while. And that has been a difficult thing for us, definitely.
I'm curious, what kind of data are you guys looking at? Like when you're looking through historical logs or you're looking at transactions, like is there something specific that is really critical for you guys?
Yeah, so initially, of course, we started just indexing the sFlare contract. That is the logical place to start. Right. But then we started noticing that people want to know, where their sFlare is, how much they have there, and stuff like that. So we started indexing various pools, indexes that have sFlare in them, lending protocols, Cyclo, basically every protocol on the Flare network that does something with sFlare, we need to index something there. So I have quite a good amount of contracts to index. It's probably not the case for every protocol, but for us, it's definitely something that we've noticed is a lot of work. So it takes some time to sync that up if it goes down.
It's always interesting too, because there's all this on-chain activity, and sometimes when you look at it, even if it's indexed and it's clean data, it's still, you kind of have to think about, what does this mean, right? Like when you're looking at all this movement of an asset, is it a specific dApp that's moving that? Is it one person? Is it multiple people? It's very interesting to just kind of dive into it, because you have the data and it can even be presented in an efficient way. But even beyond that, when it comes to just like the social element, just the people behind the transactions, right? Like what are they doing? What are their goals? What are some priorities they have when they're interacting with these smart contracts? So that's a really key part that I think is interesting to learn more about, because it's like, at the end of the day, all this on-chain activity, it's people, right? So trying to understand what their goals are, what they're doing, that's a cool part about it.
Yeah, I guess you need to change all that data into information, right? That's what I've been taught always in IT school. Like, hey, data is great. Information is the only thing that's really useful. So you need to take that data and you need to understand what you want to see, and then pick out the right data sets to combine that. And so just presenting a bunch of data doesn't really do anything, but you need to figure that out. So that's always a challenge. And for me, it's always an adventure to figure out, because it's not necessarily what I want to see, right? What's in the tab is not about what I want to see. It's about what the user wants to see. So I need to figure out what they want. And sometimes they are very clear. And most of the times they say something, but then I need to figure out what that actually means and change that into information. And that's because I guess a lot of people also don't always know exactly what they want to see until they see it. That's what I meant. So yeah.
When it is very clear what they're doing, what are some things that you've seen as either trends or patterns or just common use cases for, you know, people in the Flare ecosystem when they're using sFlare? Like, what have you been seeing that is recurring or something that you notice as a pattern?
Well, I think the most difficult thing for the sFlare use case is that it requires a lot of work to see exactly how much flare you've made by holding sFlare. And we've tried to figure that out, even though there is, we've looked at other liquid staking protocols, and they just ignore that fact completely. It's just like, this is the API, enjoy your life. If you want to know how much you made, then I guess you have to keep your own administration, and we don't. But of course, like, you know, we like to listen. We want to try and give users as much as we can to help them figure those things out. So actually, something I will show today is a result of that. It's still on our dev environment, but it's ready to be released. So at least
cool. Sneak peek. That's always fun.
Yeah. Sneak peek. So and all that data is only available, of course, because of a subgraph. And you know, without that, we wouldn't be able to go back in time. But before I go into that, is there anything you might want to share, like links or maybe show some customer who is using it in a creative way? I think that's like, you know, you can share your screen and give people ideas.
As far as links, I can drop it in our chat over here for you. There's the Flare like main partner page where anybody that wants to get started indexing on Flare, this is just like a very, very solid high level overview where kind of talks a little bit about, you know, how to get started, you know, with instructions on installing the Goldsky CLI, which is basically how within the terminal you can deploy subgraphs or create a pipeline, right? So the CLI it's a super cool little tool that you can use. And so it talks about that in the link. And there's also instructions with a step-by-step guide on, you know, how to deploy a subgraph, how to even make a no-code subgraph, because, you know, when it comes to deploying subgraphs, there's different types of audiences, right? So maybe there might be somebody who's never once before really coded or deployed a subgraph, but they're building out in dApp, you know, just going for it. There's no code subgraphs, instant subgraphs that you can deploy with subgraphs or with Goldsky using our web app. But then also, if you know what you've been doing, you know, you've been indexing for a while, you're familiar, you're basically a veteran in this, then you can get really specific and make very custom types of deployments. So really just depends. But yeah, there's on our docs.goldsky.com. There's a lot of great resources for, regardless of, you know, whether you're a pro or you're just getting started, there's resources to do it for both.
Yeah. So if you're just like starting your first app, you can try and use this to get some of that, you know, important information out to the user of the app.
We even have what's called community subgraphs, where they're just basically like pre-made subgraphs that you can just leverage that are already built out. So even if you have no idea what you're doing, you can still deploy something and get some valuable information out of there. But it's really one of those things where once you deploy it, once you're looking into the data, you can really start to understand it quickly. And of course, any questions you have, you can reach out to our team, but you can also talk to ChatGPT. It's pretty intelligent about that. I actually throw a lot of questions about subgraphs and pipelines to ChatGPT. And I'm impressed at how a lot of the time it actually answers fairly well. It doesn't always know, as detailed of a response as maybe someone from our tech services team who is just an expert. But ChatGPT, if you're just trying to learn the basics, super, super useful. So that's been interesting to see and play with.
Yeah, don't forget to say thank you and please, because
right, got to use those GPUs.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it costs millions, but you never know when that thing becomes intelligent, and then it will remember
exactly
this user. So yeah, all right. Hey, maybe I'll show that extension of our rewards page, and also feel free to comment on the things you see. If you think like, hey, this is something worth mentioning. I think it's this one. All right, so we've had the sRewards tab for a while, but we've added something on top. We've added it on top because it's your S player. So, what could be more important than that? So it's on top. And what this is going to do for users is show basically, okay, where do you have your S player? Because there might be some people who have only something in their wallet, but most people will probably at least have it in Kinetic, for instance. And maybe they are using liquidity pools in BlazeSwap, Anosis, SparkDex, some of those we haven't fully indexed yet. So that information is coming once we have that information figured out. As you can see here, I have an account with some sFlare in various places, in DEX pools, but also in a lending protocol. And I'm unstaking some, so that shows here as well. And well, this will basically just show you how much sFlare you have. And at the bottom, so this is the total that I have, and this is the amount that that's worth at the moment in RepFlare. But then I remember, like, okay, I think I staked that in December. On the 17th. So what I can do is I can click on December the 17th, obviously, and then I get what that was worth against that exchange rate on that day. So I can now see the difference between the exchange rate and the value in RepFlare today and the value on the 17th of December. So this is about as close as we can get to personal rewards. And the reason for that is that we've tried to index everything, but we've also noticed that, protocols do update their contracts, and sometimes they rename a method or something like that, and then it doesn't show the data suddenly, or it doesn't show the data for the first 6 weeks of your protocol, and then it shows it for the rest. And we've tried it like for 3 months to get the numbers right, and we used my account, and it was very obvious what should be there, and it never managed to get all of that data. And I think that problem there is that, of course, all these protocols have their own roadmap and they make their own changes, and to follow that is nearly impossible. The data is there somewhere, but it takes a lot of effort to figure it out.
This would be a very cool use case for once AI agents start being more, capable. Maybe they'll be able to track updates and make these changes in the back end for protocols like this, so that as different teams, change methods or change updates to their smart contract, there could be like an AI agent that basically, reads this on-chain data, maybe with a subgraph, and then kind of tells your protocol to make these changes so that it can follow the data. So it's going to be cool once those agents start being able to be, more useful like that.
Yeah, I think that's the only way to keep it up to date, or like a team of 100 people. But right. I think an AI would be perfectly suited for this. We're probably way better than a human brain. So this is the new part where you can basically just compare the sFlare you have, how much, and basically how much you put in if you know when you put it in there. You don't have to select the exchange rate from down here. These two other two parts of the sReward tab also have data from the subgraph. This one shows the rewards. It actually has all kinds of features here, so we can actually also just show the staking rewards. As you can see, like here, we didn't tag them yet in the beginning because we didn't know that that data was going to be useful. And I could have maybe theoretically gone in there and tagged them all manually in the hope that I got it correct, but you know. So you can just see like, okay, staking rewards, or I can just check out just the flare drops, or if I'm just interested in all the types of rewards that come in, then I can see them here. It shows certain breakdowns, last 30 days, which you can, by the way, also select here if you want some more detail. For staking rewards, for flare drops, the totals, and we also have that buy-in fee. So it's nice to know like how much has been added or how much has been paid to ensure the APY doesn't drop because of people coming in during the flare drop measurement or snapshot period. All of that information is here, and this is of course the exchange rate that has gone up. You can nicely see here that we made a change in dropping the rewards. Initially, we were sort of like spreading them out over a period with the hope of preventing gaming, and then we found another way that I think is more successful, where you can see the jumps here of the flare drops and the smaller ones of the staking rewards. So this is all data coming from the subgraph.
Yeah,
and
it's such a great example of how, you know, DeFi is just the transparency. It's just completely game changing. Like a bank would never show this kind of stuff like this easily accessible, right? It's just like so much clarity and just a lot of it. Just, you know what's your money's doing. You get to take a look and see what's happening and where the rewards come from, and so that's pretty awesome. And I believe before we were talking about there's like an exchanges right contest coming up, right? Is that something that you guys have on the horizon?
Yeah, it's already running. So people are already I'm guessing. They're allowed to update their guess, but we prefer one guess per person. But of course, you can just update your guess once you see a jump. I would definitely use this table, and the information here can help you a lot. Like you can see when the last staking rewards came in, you can see that these things don't necessarily go synchronous. So there's a logic that suggests that every now and then within a flare drop period, there must be 3 staking rewards coming in, right? Because this is 28 days and this is 30. So it would fit. So, you know, all of that information is quite crucial if you're trying to guess it correctly. And I'm really like looking forward to seeing what guesses come in, how close we get, and actually also where we arrive. I have, of course, also some idea. I'm not guessing. I have some idea, but I don't know, obviously.
Yeah. Where can people guess? Like if I wanted to go do that, just curious, where would I go?
So we have a Discord server. So you go to the Discord server, there is a special channel for guessing the exchange rate, and you just type 1 point something in there, 5 digits behind the period. And then we'll throw it all into a spreadsheet at the end, figure out who are the closest, and then we will check whether or not you're actually staked. So you have to have some sFlare in the wallet where you want to receive the sFlare. So we will be able to see it because there is some sFlare. Yes.
Yeah,
all right. You're one of the winners. Here is your sFlare. So we have a main prize for the closest one of 10,000 sFlare, and then 5 runners up, but those can be just random people. I think they were just random. So we will just select 5 random people for 1,000 and 10,000 for the one who gets closest.
Very cool. Exciting
Yeah,
stuff.
people are like guessing wildly. It's fun to see. But yeah, I'll close this unless you have something about this that you would like to ask or talk about. I don't think.
What about what's in the Earn tab? That says like it's new.
Yeah.
I'm curious what's the latest edition as far as features.
Well, it's new until we remove that little new tag, but this has been here for maybe 4 weeks or something. What it does, it shows you various sFlare related pools in all the protocols. It tells you how much total sFlare is in there. So I guess that's sort of like a trustworthiness indication. It tells you about the fee and where to find it. So basically, it's a way that, after staking, you might want to know where to drop your sFlare, and you might be looking for various types of opportunities. And this is one way of finding some of them. It is a little slow sometimes, as you see, because we're querying APIs of all these protocols. So, of course, it can take a little time to get this information. I guess this could be part of a subgraph too.
Yeah.
So I guess this is a beautiful example of the difference between pulling data on chain and and getting it from one subgraph or one database. Might be something for the future. We're not that interested here in, of course, the historical APRs or APYs. So that's why.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
No, I like the app. It's pretty awesome. It's got a very clean design too. It's like kind of a minimalistic style. It's simple. I enjoy that.
Yeah, we're trying to keep it that way. There are always new options coming up and things that we want to add, but always trying to find a way to make it so that it doesn't clutter the app with another thing that pops out or pops up.
Yeah.
All right. I think I'm going to close this one, or maybe I should leave it, but we might be able to use it later if there's a question. And we can go maybe over the Q&A if there are any questions from online.
Yeah, there is. The question is there a video walkthrough on how to implement Goldsky subgraphs on a protocol? Yeah, so if you go to docs.goldsky.com, there's actually a video under the subgraphs tab. So there it shows Javi, who's our solution engineer. It's about 13 minutes long. And he shows you how to deploy a subgraph. He walks through all the steps. So we've got a video tutorial on that. Same with our mirror page as well. It shows how to create a pipeline. So we've got some video examples, and those are really helpful to just take a look at and learn about how to deploy.
Cool. Yeah, we shared the link to the docs. Of course, that was the one to specifically Flare underneath this stream. So no need to remember exactly what you said.
Yeah, and also we do often on our X account, we'll do workshops where we'll partner with certain different chains, and we'll basically do a live demo showing how to either deploy a subgraph or create a pipeline. So stay tuned on X, or even go through our profile. You can scroll through some of the older content. We've got videos on there, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of content out there to help kind of guide you on how to make that deployment.
All right, so follow that X account, guys. So you can actually figure out what the next tutorial is. Okay, let's see if there's another question. Yes, well, I guess this is probably for me. Yes, we did run into obstacles, as I tried to elaborate on when I was going over your sFlare part of the sReward tab. The main problem is just that there are a lot of protocols, a lot of contracts. Some are not even like some will even not be used anymore at some point. So, like for instance, the DEXs have UniV3 pools, but they also still have UniV2 pools. Those will, of course, eventually empty or likely empty. And, we will have to keep up with them, or we will have to still keep an eye on them constantly to be able to get the history. And as said, like, contracts are updated a lot, which means that that methods could change, and we might be indexing one and then they change the name and then the index doesn't work anymore. So this is where we need that AI that Andrew was talking about. I think then we might stand a chance.
I think we'd be surprised at how quickly capable AI agents are going to come. It'll probably be here sooner than we all expect.
Yeah, maybe it's already here, at the end of this episode. But
maybe
someone just kicked an AI into learning about this. But yeah, definitely. So yeah, that was really difficult. So what we did now is one based on the data that we can gather. And that has been quite like constant. So I hope this is a useful tool for the users, that they can make this comparison. I understand that some people might have like 50 moments when they staked and or bought sFlare, and they won't be able to easily see how much they made. But that really, like, we've spent 3 or 4 months trying to figure it out, and we just ran into snags constantly. So I think this is a good start, at least. So the next thing is that we will try to add the Anosis and SparkTech pools. Then we will probably be able to cover 98% of the use cases that people have for sFlare, and we will know where that sFlare is, and that will allow us to do other things too that I'm not going to talk about, but useful things. Yeah, well, you may also answer it if you know, but I think I have a good idea.
Yeah, would love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I think, for liquid staking protocols on big or expanding networks, the problem is that, that sFlare or S token, whatever liquid staking token you have, LST, it can be anywhere. And unless you index that anywhere, that other contract, it will just look like you sent the token somewhere. So I don't know that you have it. It will just look like you send it to another wallet. So it is something that is extremely hard to keep up to date. And I think that's why they don't even bother. I've liquid staked for a long time, I think like 4 years now. And the main main network where I've done that of course I'm not going to name here. But anyway, another network that is a lot like Flare, code-wise. That one has had liquid staking for maybe 4 years, and they've never done anything in that direction.
Sounds like they just need to use more Goldsky.
Maybe that will solve their issues. Yeah, we could definitely try and and get them to go there. But that's what I think the reason is. All right, no more questions. All right, Andrew, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you. I hope you've inspired some new devs to create a nice app, useful app, use great data, and help us all understand our lives better, because I guess that's what this all this data turned into nice information does for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure. I mean, I'm super excited to see what you guys build out and what devs in the Flare ecosystem build out. I mean, it's the cool thing about indexing and, building with these kind of products is we still haven't seen all the use cases possible that people will build out. We've seen many, but the possibilities really are endless. It's a toolkit, and it's really just limited by your imagination and your ability to build. So very much looking forward to seeing what everybody builds out. And yeah, if anyone has any questions and they want to learn more about Goldsky, feel free to interact with us on X, send us a DM, comment on our posts, reach out to support@goldsky.com if you have technical questions. We're here to help support you. So anything that we can do to either teach you or help answer questions or debug, feel free to reach out, let us know. We're excited to see what you can make.
Amazing. Thanks a lot. And to the audience, I hope to see you all next time. It will be our 1-year anniversary episode. So we are expecting a lot of protocols to join us. So I'm sure it will be a very interesting episode. And of course, before that time, make sure to, guess the exchange rate. You never know. Thank you all, and have a great day. Cheers.
Cool. Nice day. Bye.
Thank you.